So, welcome everybody to our last session of the day. Topic is monitor performance, usage and errors from end-user perspective with SAP Cloud ALM. My name is Stefan Lahr. I'm part of the product management team on SAP Cloud ALM for operations, and there I'm responsible for the coordination of the rollout activities. With me on stage is Ralf Berhorst. Ralf Berhorst as a representative from the customer Miele. He will also introduce himself in the part that I will hand over then to him. So warm welcome from us, and let me show the agenda for this session. Relatively short agenda, but I'm pretty sure we also need a complete 45 minutes. Starting with a functional overview, very fast, just that we pick up everyone where the functionalities that we are talking about belongs to and how does it feed to the overall concept of Cloud ALM for operations. Then I will speak a bit about real user monitoring as one application that belongs to the user and performance monitoring area. And then I will hand over, or I will give a short introduction also to the synthetic user monitoring so that the concept is clear for everyone. And then I will really hand over to the customer example, to Ralf from Miele. And this will take the biggest part of the presentation, I hope so. So if I'm not speaking too much, then we will have maybe also 5 minutes at the end to give you an outlook over really interesting innovations that we plan specially for real user monitoring and synthetic user monitoring. Good. With this, the functional overview, I think you have seen the complete picture with all the animation in it already several times over the last days. So I don't want to speak in the details. I just want to show you where we are talking about here. And this is in the problem detection area where we have all the different monitoring applications then placed. Two applications belongs to this user monitoring, and one is the synthetic user monitoring. The other one is the real user monitoring. So, starting with the real user monitoring, how does it work? How is the concept behind? In fact, with real user monitoring, we are able to monitor the performance for each and every request execution that has been triggered from an end user on the end user device. So it doesn't matter if there is a browser on a desktop PC that an end user is working with, or if there is a mobile device with a browser that the end user is working with. Whenever he is doing a certain click in an application, he triggers requests. Requests that goes out of the browser are transferred via the network and then received via different cloud services or via a certain cloud service or a backend system. And there the request processing could trigger further request executions that are then needed to assemble the response. This goes in the complete way, as you see it here also on the slide, to the next cloud service maybe, to another system, and then vice versa with the reply. At the end, we collect the data, we show the data then in the user and performance or in the real user monitoring UI. And you can data mine there exactly how much time for this request execution has been spent on the front-end device, how much time has been spent in the network, how much time has been spent in cloud service A, in cloud service B, or in a certain system that is supported. And the usage for this is also, I think, quite clear. For example, if you have an end user, he's complaining to your IT organization about poor performance that he has experienced or when he was accessing information from a certain cloud service. And this could be 2 hours ago. There it was shaky, was bad performance, poor performance. Now everything works. He is really annoyed by this, and he comes to you in the IT organization and asks to solve this problem. You have very bad cards in the IT department because certain tracing, if it's currently working, then you don't catch anything. And with the real user monitoring, you could go into the application, could go back in time, could filter for the user. You can see exactly what he has been done 2 hours ago and where the time for the execution of his activity has been spent. How does it work? That's the next question. And here it's important to understand that this works without any additional data injection on the front-end device. So there is no need for an installation of an agent or the injection of some samples of code into the applications that you have running there. It's all working out of the box. In fact, if we are speaking about SAP UI5, then we have in the library of the SAP UI5 already built in this mechanism or this algorithm that is fetching you the response time as it is measured on the front-end device. We send this data then via the requests to gateway systems, to back-end systems. We are using traditionally SAP Passport. SAP Passport is kind of, in this scenario, additional header fields to the HTTP communication where SAP applications can write into and read out of it. And so we provide a transaction ID, for example, and this allows us then later, when we pick up the data from the different systems via the receiver component in Cloud ALM, to correlate such a request execution. We know where it comes from, we know where it was sent to, we know the measurements has been done for this particular request on the backend components, on the cloud services, and then we do that. We aggregate the ones that has been executed quite fast, because usually you're not interested in the ones that has been executed quite fast, so you want to see how many requests have been executed, and you know these ones were with a green rating. And with the single requests, then if you have longer running ones, there we use this via the correlator to build a complete request execution flow diagram, where you see where it has been started, where it has been ended, and how it was in between. So this data are interesting then for the IT analyst, as we just have mentioned, for a scenario where he wants to know where is the performance problem related to, but also for business analysts, because you could also data mine how a particular application is used by your end users. Is this used in the way as you have foreseen it? Do they do clicks around? So really you get an understanding of how they work with it, and this also brings additional improvement potential. A particular usage scenario, I don't want to do a live demo because simply would be taking too long, would be that you start the application, and you see here also the screenshot from the home screen where you have the different systems and services which you are having in scope are presented with the different request types that have been executed over the last 1 hour with the corresponding rating. The rating is done automatically for you. And you can then from there select a certain request type that shows a poor performance behavior. And this would guide you to the request view, where you then see, okay, which activity has caused this request, or where the real user has been clicked through in the application. Each component in the application, if we speak about SAP UI5, has an identifier that is given by the developer, and we collect also this identifier and we present this in this request view. Then you can also see how many users have executed this particular component to trigger the request, what was the average response time, and what was how often it has been executed with a good performance, with a green rating, and how often it has been executed with a poor performance. You can drill down then in one of these activities that has been clicked that shows you the poor performance. If you want to analyze further, this brings you to the request details, where we show the point in time where this request have been executed in the system. So you can here already check for a certain pattern related to the time, maybe on peak business hours, or you see other frequency that this is occurring with poor performance. Or at least you also see that this is randomly, that sometimes this is executed with perfect performance, but sometimes you have these outliners. And then you select one of these outliners, one of the requests, one of the point in times where this request have been executed with poor performance. And then you see this, I would say, quite famous request flow diagram now at the end, has been several times showing already during the different events. And there you get a graphical representation. The blue frame tile shows you the place where the requests have been triggered, so usually the end user device. You can identify the user, you can identify the operating system, including the version, the browser that has been used. You see the amount of round trips that have been triggered. You see the net time, you see the time that was really needed to fulfill this request. and to render the data in the front-end device. And then you can follow all these round trips that you identify. They are represented then, and you see which components in your landscape has been really involved in this request execution. And again, for each of these components, how long did it take to be processed on this component? How many further requests were maybe triggered? Of which type have been this request? What was the performance over it? So a very powerful application, I would say, very often requested from customers. It's an application that doesn't exist on Solution Manager. No? Was very much requested already several years ago, but has never been realized on Solution Manager for several reasons. We had realized it on Focused Run. Also, the people that know Focused Run, they know this concept is the same concept that we have taken over to Cloud ALM. And now we present the data here also in this context. So I think a big additional value and make the user performance monitoring topic complete. With this, coming to the second application, the synthetic user monitoring, and in addition to be able to monitor the real user requests, we have here a different concept. And this means that we are creating scripts. This means sequence of clicks that you want to monitor. And this could be kind of recorded and then being executed by so-called runners. Runners are components from this Selenium concept. It's not from SAP. It's a kind of standard that is coming from the open source community. And there, these runners could be installed on-premise or in the cloud. The concept is that you bring it as near as possible to the real end users. So the scenario would be that you have subsidiaries, that you have a decentralized landscape where is your data center or the services are accessed from different locations in the world. You have your sales organization working in Berlin, and you have another department working from New York, and you want them to monitor that they can, from their location, access the service, and that they also experience sufficient response time. So the runners then at the end simulate browsers. They simulate the browsers from different vendors. This you can specify. And then they are executing the previously recorded script frequently, fully automatically, and send the requests to any web application. This is also important to understand. This is not an SAP-centric monitoring approach as almost all others. Here you can monitor easily third-party applications if they have an HTTP access point. And then you could create a script that is consisting only of 3 steps: logging on, clicking in the navigation, logging off. And you get in 24/7 information. This web application is available to be logged on, and it is also sufficient for the navigation step from the performance point of view. So integration of your third-party components into your monitoring concept, from this point of view, quite easy task. Good. Yes, 24/7, this I have mentioned already. So since this is fully automatically working, you get this information, but only, of course, for the tasks that you have recorded into your script. But it allows you then also to get proactively, or to be proactive with your solutions, because there's no real user activity needed for that. You will get informed during the night hours, during non-business hours, that there is a certain problem. You can solve this problem in the morning when the real users are coming, starting to work. So you would not even realize that there had been a problem overnight. And you can compare the measurements. So since you have every time the same steps executed, you would see exactly at which point in time you would have a deviation from this behavior, an unusual behavior, and you could also then try to investigate deeper direct based on this information, and also be here proactive so that in the best scenario, the real users would not be affected by it. But with this, I think you have an impression, and now you know it works for SAP, it works on PowerPoint, but let's see how this really works in real life on customer side.
Warm welcome from my side. My name is Ralf Behorst. I'm a member of the SAP Basis team. Today our name is SAP Technology, and I'm mainly the one who deal with the solution manager and responsible for the monitoring of our environment. First, I will give you some information of our company, that you realized what requirements we have, and a little bit of our landscape. And set out of the system, the synthetic user monitoring, a script which I worked together with a developer from SAP, creating a generic script and usage and findings around set up and implement synthetic user monitoring. So we are a family-owned company, more than 100 years old, and so we are producing household appliances. You all know you have a dishwasher, a vacuum cleaner, a dryer, an oven, something like that. What we also produce for the end customer, we have also products for professional services, for hotels, for restaurants, or for healthcare, for hospitals, big washing machines with 30 kilos, for example. That's a few pictures from the products. At the moment, we have close to 24,000 employees all over the world. Our turnover per year, it's around 5.5 billion euro. And what's really important to understand, also the business we have to take care of, is that we have production plants all over the world. 20 years ago, when I started Miele, there was only Germany, one in Austria, as well as one in China. But over the years, we grow up. At the moment, we plan to establish a new plant in the States. So production is totally different from sales and service and logistic, sales and service. And our sales and service organization is all over the world. Let's say 20 years ago, there was close to 30 subsidiaries we had, and each 2 years, more or less, we get a new subsidiary. Okay, some information while what was our motivation to use or to start with Zoom. Yesterday, together with Janko, I explained a little bit the whole reasons why we start with SAP Cloud ALM. And one point from the current setup is that we use, from the solution manager, is that we use user experience monitoring. For 3 more or less main reasons: a little bit HTTP protocol, simple availability scripts, let's say, also for non-SAP systems, but not really complex one. But we have also 2 complex, let's say, logins and steps in the UI, where we simulate users, especially in a sales and a service part. And these we do it in production. That, for example, you as a customer call the company. You have a service request. My washing machine is broken, something like that. Then the operator where you talk with asks your name. When you are a customer, then we select the user, select the machine where it is registered, and plan, for example, a service technician for you. And all these steps in the UI of the CRM is recorded with user experience monitoring, with a script, with tools, and well configured that we can run it in against the application as a system, as well as a service, a sales order. We don't confirm, also before we confirm, we stop the script and run it again a couple of months later. So this will be done over the whole day, 7 days a week. And the third thing which we do there is monitoring web services. We have a SAP Business Objects Data Services application for address validation, which we use in all of our systems. So when you as a customer call Miele, or when something in every system, a address is being touched, it will be validated if the address is okay. And all of these calls are web service calls against the Business Object Data Service solution. And these web services we simulate because this application is really, it's a small application, but it's really important because when it's not working, all the application will not work. Yeah, but the user experience monitoring based, or the script recording and configuration based on the Internet Explorer, and I think all you know, the Internet Explorer has been end of support. Now you can use the Edge browser, and therefore I'm not able to create new recording, especially when I try to record a new system with SAP UI5. Then when you try to reach the web page, it said to you, hey, you have an old reporter, which old browser which is not supported, use Edge or something like that. And therefore, this is one big reason why we have to switch over to Zoom. Yeah, Zoom is totally new for me, and so as was also new for me to start with user experience monitoring a couple of years ago. So I have to learn all the wordings which SAP use for Zoom, as well as understanding what does Selenium means. So you have a lot of names from Selenium WebDriver. What is a WebDriver? The WebDriver is a piece of software which can be used to call a website, for example. Or from Zoom, there are resources, runners, what Stefan mentioned before. The runner is at the end the machine where the script you record will be run against your website. And some other, let's say, elements which are important for understanding the whole installation. The big challenge for me was to understand and to set up my environment. There are a couple of information when you Google about Selenium and read the expert portal. A lot of information are there, but to mix all the different words together and to and when you have to create your own your environment to run this, it took a little bit time. It was not so easy as to register a Cloud ALM tenant. So this build should give you an example how I set up the environment. And also these slides here in the presentation, there are a lot of information inside where I hope that you, if you are an administrator who try to deal with Zoom, that you are able to do the installation a little bit faster than I did it. So you have all the elements which is important, especially the runners, where we run the scripts, is located in our environment, while we all do these scenarios testing in our internal network. That means at the moment we have 2 runners installed in our headquarters, but as mentioned Stefan before, you can also put the runner wherever you like to do them. It's only the difference of delay between, let's say, Germany and the States, where you have a little bit delay, and the delay between, let's say, Brisbane to Germany is a little bit larger. But yes, you also can detect problems with that also. And in the Cloud ALM, when you create or when you use the scenario, Zoom, then you have to create a scenario, you have to create a resource. The resource at the end is the script you recorded and where all the steps you have to prepare, which are the clicks and the types in and the validation which the user normally do there. And the runner, that is an element which is responsible for the connection over the cloud connector to the machine where the Selenium software is running. The runner is in the Zoom only a configuration. SAP Cloud Connector, that's not the target of this presentation. It's well documented, and I assume most of you, when you are have cloud solutions from SAP running, maybe you have the Cloud Connector already installed. But here's some links and information how you can set up this. So the setup of the Windows Server, a few links of the software I use. Yeah, you need a Java runtime engine. It's not really a big deal. You need the Selenium software. Selenium software is available on the selenium.com URL. What is it? However, you can download the Selenium software. I use a standalone driver and I put all things together in one folder. That's the first, and the second is the two drivers, which is able to call the Chrome browser as well as the MS Edge browser. When you use Chrome, you have on the Windows Server, you have to install the Chrome browser too. And the My App and the My App Lock, My App wrapper is a configuration, a little piece of software to run the software as a service in Windows. And you also need the Selenium Server jar application, which is dealing with, or is the, let's say, proxy between the Cloud ALM part as well as the driver. And then a configuration, the config toml file is really important, especially the override max sessions. You should know the runners are running, the Windows machine I use are virtualized. There's two CPUs, but when you have a lot of script, you will use them parallel. If you don't use the override max session value, you can only run on a machine with two CPUs, only two scripts parallel. So you have to disable this dependency to the number of processors you have. It was a big deal to find that, but however, here it is. And when you install the software, you can make an easy test of if the configuration is working with the Java call, which is for manual testing, more or less. Yes, that's the part how to install the Windows service. There's nothing special. It's something how to deal with the application WinSV, which I download. It's a piece of software which you need there. Maybe there are other solutions how to create a Windows service which should run. And important is, I don't know if I write it down, the user which run this service must be a user who is allowed to browse in the internet. So in our environment, the user who is trying to browse in the internet has to log on to the Windows, and then with all the different proxies and security mechanisms, certificates for application, for example, has been covered, let's say, and therefore the service must run as a user who is allowed to run to call these different websites. So that's a normal Windows user who can log on and is allowed to browse in the internet. So you have the configuration already running, and now you need the scripts which simulate the user activity. The different browser has a plugin. It's called Selenium IDE. It's a extension which allows you to record something you do on a browser. And this recording you have to prepare and save and upload as a side file into the Zoom configuration. And with some settings in the Zoom, you are able to repeat running the scripts you have recorded, and you will run. So the script which I explained you, which we use to make a simple availability monitoring, was an alternative way for the something which I miss in the health monitoring in SAP Cloud ALM. So when you have a system configured in Solution Manager, the availability monitoring will be covered by the load balancer setting in the managed system setup. It's technical stuff, but I think the person who knows, who is dealing with monitoring, system monitoring, knows what I'm talking about. And but these availability monitoring is not available while you have now managed system configuration in Cloud ALM. In Cloud ALM, you have, when you registered your ABAP system, you have, let's say, two, or in our largest system has 20 server. They are, you can see the availability, but the availability of the central entry point, which is the, these configuration, the health load balancer setting, is not able to run to monitor, and therefore I built a simple SECF ping script, which call the URL for the SECF ping as a alternative to the former known system monitoring availability monitor. But this script also can use for, while it is configurable, you can use it for monitor whatever website you like to call. It's only a simple call, the URL, the port, and the name of the server, a DNS name, the port, and maybe the URL if you use that, you need that to monitor. Though it's a little or simple health monitoring, more or less. That's it. And this is the script. I called it, or together with Christoph Garcia, the responsible developer for the Zoom. He saw my scripts I created by myself. I created a script for each system I had to configure. It was more than 10. And then he saw that and he said, hey, you can do it easier. Build a generic script with Variablen in Zoom, and then you are able to use one script for all of your different availability monitor you like to have. And therefore, the script has been created with a couple of Variablen. While I have no experience, or until now, I haven't experienced before with dealing with Selenium IDE, as well as how to deal with the scripts. He helped me to develop this really simple script. And this script is configurable. You see the full qualified domain name, the port, the path, if it is necessary or not, and then you can run it. When you create the script, you have to upload it into the Zoom, and you have to make some configurations. As I mentioned before, you have to take care about the resource, which is a script you have to upload. Then you create a scenario. You have to configure your runner. Your runner is connected over the BTP connection with the cloud connector to the machine in your network. And then you can configure some information. In this case, the script has 3 variables. You can use it. If not, it's called, for example, HTTPS. And here, for example, the port, normally the port of a ABAP system has 35. It's the beginning for HTTPS, and then the instance number, and then it will call the system you configured in this case. There are other steps which I will not discuss now. When you go into a configuration, you will see, and I think you will understand how to do all the details. The intention is to show the way I use and to help you to start without the time I had spent there. The usage, the usage is it's quite simple. The usage of the runner or some background information. I start trying to install the runner on the Linux machine with a Docker. The installation was not really heavy, was fast, but then I had problems with all these things around browser proxy, log on, which I have to cover on the Unix machine. While we are using, I simulate a user who is normally running at a Windows system. So all of our users are working in Windows. We have no Linux or whatever. So the configuration to simulate a user who is logging on Windows and browsing on a Windows desktop is totally different from the Linux system. And then I decide, okay, does it make sense for me to figure out how the different certificates I have to import, the configuration I have to make that the real proxy is the right proxy is used. I say, okay, try to start with a Windows system, and it was much easier while all these things was running. While I create a user in our Active Directory. I allow him to log in on the machine. I make it manually. Try to use websites I like to use, and then I was sure that the installation and the user was able to run on these machines, and all the other things I mentioned before is then working. Documentation, I often told to Christoph as well as to the colleagues of SAP that there are a lot of information placed on the expert portal, for example, the help portal, and especially for Selenium, the reference to the Selenium. But you have to all that mix that together. There are a couple of blog entries, but I think there is, let's say, room for improvement to help us as a customer or you when you start to make things easier. It will be very nice. Often when we start in middle of May, we start with register the tenant. I had often watched videos on the expert portal, and I like that videos because you spend 5 till 10 minutes and you get the jump into how to deal with health monitoring, real user monitoring, or something like that. To understand the concept, then you have to go into the expert portal how to configure, for example, real user monitoring or connect a ABAP system, a cloud connector, a C4C was a little bit more to do there. And also, I hope that the documentation for the Zoom environment will be extended with a couple of nice videos and things to help us to go on. That's maybe a screenshot which you also saw in different other presentation today or yesterday. It's an example. This shows 4 of these availability scripts. these are the names, so the name is ZIT in front of, and then the 4 different systems. And when I deploy the scripts, later I check that, and I detect, okay, while is this system red? And I detect the system configuration was set to German instead of all the others, which is English. And the SECF ping returns normally server reached in English, und in Germany server, ich glaube, erreicht or something like that. And so the validation I put in the script was failing. And then I have to extend the script with a branch if response, then okay, if erreicht is okay, and then I reconfigured the scripts, deploy that, and then start again, and then it was green. So it's a simple piece of configuration, but it's also show you or me how powerful the method with scripting in Selenium is. Yeah. Okay. One big slide, I think, is a screenshot from Grafana. The developer Christoph Garcia he has in his own lab a dashboard with Grafana provided. Janko and all the colleagues explained in the last days a couple of APIs which are available. Zoom has also an API since 4 or 5 weeks. In August, I think it was reached. And now we are able to use Grafana to visualize something. The Grafana is, from my point, important. I mentioned it yesterday also. We use today in Solution Manager the focused insight dashboards, the OPE dashboards, which can give you for a system a traffic like green, yellow, red. And this is what I try to have in Cloud ALM. And until now, Grafana will be an alternative way, but Janko also said that in one session today, he said that they will update the health monitoring with new dashboards in the future. So a lot of... Yeah, it's necessary, yeah. It's only an example for that. Some findings, especially, there is a dependency between the Selenium runner, the Selenium WebDriver, and the browser version. So we patch our system permanently. These SAP server normally one time in a quarter, but also the Windows software update stuff. But some software things will be updated dynamically, especially the MS Edge, the browser, as well as I use sometimes the Google Chrome. And Google Chrome has an update service, which if a new version is deployed, then the Chrome on your laptop will be updated. Normally, you don't detect that. But the system detected because the driver corresponding to the version you are using. And if your browser will be updated, then the driver or the monitor will fail. And so you have to take care that disable the automatic update for the browser, or however you have to detect that. In discussion with Christoph, he said he is working on how to deal with that in the solution, because when this appears in the background and you didn't take care of this, then you had all these scripts a failure, and you get an alert which you never like to see, because it's not an alert or a problem with the application, it's a problem with your infrastructure. Yeah, I think that's really important. Last slide I have, or second last slide. Setup is not so easy. I hope, for me it was not so easy. I hope with that presentation you get the information you really need. If you have questions, the contact information is on one of the slides. Call me or send me an email. You have to learn and understand Selenium IDE. Yeah, what I mentioned before is depends on the script you use, and you have to understand how scripting is how to deal with the script. You can efficiently deploy a lot of things in your environment. So, for example, if you have UI5 logins on several systems and log in with a user, and for example, go to the help and log out. This is quite simple and really independently from the business case behind, but you can use this script for tens or 20 systems, development system, QA system, and productive system, one script for all to have an easy availability monitor. With a user who is allowed, you can, with scripting, you can configure the user, the passwords, and then you are really flexible to create one good script and monitor a lot of things. Yeah. Open points, web service monitoring. Stefan asked me, what do you mean with web service? And then he said, okay, we have to discuss that later on. How can we do that? I think at the moment the technology does not allow that because Selenium is an open source solution, and maybe with improvement in the future, we will see. Scheduling possibility. If you have, for example, in my case, 2 runners, and you start deploying a new script, and you will start it, both runners start the script at the same time. The minimum period is 300 seconds, so normally it makes sense that the first runner start now, and if 300 seconds, after 150 seconds, the second runner should start from my point of view. And then alternatively, both runners should do their work so that you have not 5 minutes, 5 minutes between one call. You have then 2.5 minutes between while you have 2 runners. Yeah? And this is something you can manually configure. If you know that, you have to enable the second runner later on, but it's a easy thing which Christoph detect and understand, and hopefully in one of the future releases it will be do. And so at the end I have to say many thanks to Christoph Garcia because he support me with all of these. At the end I can say always better is the Miele philosophy more or less, and also over the last months, I start in May, I saw and detect a lot of new improvements which the team of Janko's colleagues has implemented, and sometimes you think something is not working and you go to the colleagues and behind they had fixed it, and therefore we see, or I can see from my point of view, a lot of things has been improved and will be improved in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ralf. Also from my side, very interesting, I think. And I think you believe it now. You have seen it from a real customer, how this really works. We are over time a little bit. There are only 2 slides, I think, missing, and I want to use this opportunity that we are the last session here in this room. There's a big break, so you don't miss anything if you stay here for 2 more minutes. To give you a short outlook to these 2 applications, because we plan really certain very fancy capabilities. So real user monitoring as well as synthetic user monitoring so far were not able to set up via the alert management, so to receive really alerts automatically. This was related to the fact that we also were afraid of that if we provide you with the possibility to define very strict thresholds manually, that you would, because of this end user is involved, a lot of white noise. So every time, because we are monitoring also mobile devices, and if the customer is moving a bit, he has maybe back connection, he would get a longer response time. He's driving with the car, goes into the tunnel, he has longer response time. You don't want to receive these hundreds, thousands of alerts from your mobile device users because you will also not handle them. So In the real user monitoring, we have an innovative approach now, so-called the change point detection. Here, an additional channel comes into the game, and this is that we have the data, the delivery data, the data that we are measuring in an irregular time window. We never know when a real user is doing a click. So we have no sequence of data that we can rely on and something calculate with. And therefore, we have decided now, instead of putting this hard threshold, as you would see here on the top of the line, and every time you would get an alert if this threshold is exceeded, we have this change point detection algorithm based on HANA capabilities now tested. And we provide you then with an alert only if this situation that you exceed the usually measured response time for a particular request for a certain amount of time. We call it this latency that comes into the game. So we filter out a lot of this one-time occurrence that nobody would take care anyway. But if a problem is consisting for a certain amount of time, we think this is a valid approach to be then informed and to get some activity on it. This is one thing, and this real user monitoring approach. And the other is similar to this, because also synthetic user monitoring works from decentralized locations. The difference here is that we here can see a frequent amount of data. We receive the data according to the configuration of the runners, how often they trigger the request to the monitored web service, and then we get a set of data that we can then, with this approach of the dynamic threshold, extrapolate. So we have a sliding learning window that checks the response times over the past, and we calculate out of this a kind of forecast for the next period in a range, according to this historical behavior. And then we add a buffer on this range, and there we put dynamically now thresholds. So this means, if you have seen the screenshot from Ralph, from his synthetic user monitoring, if you paid a lot of attention, you have seen there was also a threshold line when to switch the status information to yellow and to red. These were flat lines that has been configured, so to a specific value. With this approach, you will see then a curve also for this threshold line, when to switch to yellow and when to switch to red. It will be a curve then according to the experience that has been done in this sliding window. And then you see also here these curves, and this gives this dynamic thresholds. Yes, I think this I wanted to mention, so I took a bit over time.